Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is, of course, your boy, Nolan Hawkeye Anthony here. And I hope you guys are having a fantastic week wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. I have some news for y'all today that I just saw. It's been a couple days since I've spoken with you guys last. It's kind of a slow part of Iowa Hawkeye sports season. Really, all there is baseball right now, Iowa baseball, which is somewhat interesting, but definitely not like football or basketball. And this brings me to our basketball news, which is Joe Toussaint deciding to enter the transfer portal. And I told you guys in my post-game reaction of Iowa's defeat to Richmond that this was a possibility, considering what we have seen over the last couple of seasons, especially last year when CJ Frederick and Jack Nunge kind of decided to transfer out of nowhere, especially CJ Frederick. This is a day and age where players are transferring for the littlest thing. Sometimes it's not even a thing. They may just decide to transfer because they want to live somewhere else and have a different life somewhere else and play for a different team that maybe has them excited and to try something new. It may not even be something that is all bad. So here it is, Joe Toussaint transferring, and I'm also going to dive into Keegan Murray deciding to enter his name in the NBA draft. I'm not surprised by that at all. There were some fans in the comment section who, much like myself, were kind of willing it to happen. But I knew in my heart of hearts and just what I know with sports, that it was highly unlikely that Keegan Murray was going to return. He's old or older for the grade that he is in because he spent an extra year at a prep school. And of course, with the NBA, it is all about youth and having youth when it comes to drafting specifically, so you can develop the guy. It's all about projections and where a guy can be down the line if given enough time, the ceiling, what is their ceiling, that type of thing. So I knew it was highly unlikely, given the season that Keegan Murray had, that he was going to be returning to the Hawkeyes. And I totally understand some of the Iowa fans out there hoping that he would return. But I've been honest with you guys from day one that I thought it was highly unlikely. And he did decide to go pro, which I will get to and tell you whether I think it was a good decision of his or if it was a bad decision. Back to Joe Toussaint. Even with everything I've already said, I am somewhat surprised by this. With Jordan Bohannon graduating, Joe Toussaint has 100%. He is the number one candidate and the front runner to replace Jordan Bohannon at that starting point guard position. Now, and I've talked to you guys about this before. I knew that when Jordan Bohannon decided to return, even though he did talk to Joe Toussaint about it and basically asked Joe Toussaint if it was okay if he decided to come back, I knew that Coach Fran McCaffery was not going to be able to contain himself or help himself when it came to Jordan Bohannon and the point guard position. I knew sooner or later that he was going to put J-Bo back at the point guard position, and he did. He did it even sooner than I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to do it, towards the end of the season. Well, no, I take that back. He did it about kind of when I expected, right somewhere at the beginning of Big Ten play. he made that change and never looked back. And quite frankly, while Joe Toussaint did not play a lot, there were some games where his minutes were kind of down after leaving that starting lineup. There were games where Aaron Eulis got more minutes, Tony Perkins got more minutes, and Joe Toussaint kind of took a back seat. So here's Joe Toussaint's ESPN page. He averaged 4 points per game, 3 assists. And, as far as his game goes, I have always really liked Joe Toussaint, and I have gone to bat for him because of just how much he got after it. He always gave it his all. He was a huge spark plug for the Hawkeyes. He was an Energizer Bunny type player, very athletic, very explosive, and was one of the best defenders Iowa had. And a lot of games in which Iowa was victorious, you could directly look at Joe Toussaint and say that he had a huge hand in them winning, or at least coming back in a game that they were losing and making the game close. Now, let's see how many minutes he played this past season. He averaged 17.4 minutes per game, which was slightly less than his first season when Jordan Bohannon had his surgery and was out after the 10 games he played. He played 11.3 minutes a game his sophomore season. I believe Joe Toussaint will have 2 years of eligibility left wherever he goes, which is why I'm somewhat surprised that he decided to transfer, because again, I'm surprised on one hand and not surprised on the other. The part of me that is surprised because he has the front seat towards becoming Iowa's starter, at the very least at the beginning of next season. If you look at some of the projections of Iowa's starting lineup, Joe Toussaint is consistently considered the starter. Iowa does have a really, really good point guard prospect coming in out of the Massachusetts area in Toussaint Bowen, who is 6'3". And in my opinion, he's probably the second best point guard recruit coming out of high school that Iowa has had under Fran McCaffrey, outside of Mike Gazelle, who was a consistently considered top 100 prospect and 4-star prospect. I would say Toussaint Bowen is slightly behind him. And in a lot of regards, Toussaint Bowen, if you just go by your eye test and not the recruiting rankings, in a lot of regards, he might be the best point guard prospect or incoming freshman Fran McCaffrey has had in his tenure at Iowa. So there's a lot of promise there. But again, he is only going to be a freshman. The other option that Iowa has is Aaron Eulis. The point that and Aaron Eulis showed a lot of good stuff, good things this past season. Now, what I'm getting at here is that it's not as though the writing was written on the wall, meaning it's not as though there was an incoming 5-star point guard prospect, can't miss prospect, where Joe Toussaint is like, even though J-Bo's leaving, this guy's going to be here, therefore I'm not going to be the starter. It wasn't one of those types of deals. Again, Joe Toussaint was going to be the favorite to get the starting position. And the other aspect is he is great friends with Patrick McCaffrey. So from that perspective, I am very surprised. On the more realistic side of things, in the current era of college sports where players are not as, I don't want to say loyal, but as prideful in the jersey they wear, and it's much more fluid, I'm not surprised, because at this point, it's important to players that they play for a certain school, but it's not the end all be all. They're okay going somewhere else and competing for someone else. Now, is this a big deal? That's the big question. Is this a big deal? I would say yes. because this is the second year in a row where Iowa has lost a key contributor who potentially was going to have an even bigger role the next year. Iowa lost Jack Nunge and CJ Frederick, who both, it's likely, had they returned to Iowa, both of them would have been starters for the Iowa Hawkeyes this past season. Now, how it played out, I'm very happy about Tony Perkins. I'm very happy with Rebraca, yada, yada, yada. But had they both come back, they likely both would have been starters, at the very least, huge contributors. For a second year in a row, Iowa has lost a guy who is a key contributor and was a front runner to be a starting player. That's a big deal no matter how you slice it. It just is. Back-to-back years, losing a guy that you have put a ton, or guys that you have put a ton of time, investment, development, and energy into, to go to a different school and for that school to reap the rewards, it is brutal. Now, on the flip side, am I concerned that Iowa will not be able to replace Joe Toussaint? Not necessarily. Again, I'm very happy with what we saw from Ulis. I like his size. I like his explosiveness. And I do think that given a bigger role, and hopefully he does decide to stay with the Hawkeyes, given a bigger role, I think that he can become even better than what we saw from Joe Toussaint. And I really do believe that. I think Aaron Ulis has a lot of really, really good traits as a point guard. I am very excited about Dasonte Bowen, the incoming freshman. If you haven't watched my analysis video on him, I suggest you go and check that out. Very popular video. So I suggest you go and check that out. From that standpoint, I'm not overly concerned. I think Iowa will more or less be just fine at the point guard position next season. Now, if they lose Aaron Ulis, then they're in trouble and they're going to have to go to the transfer portal, which brings me to my next and last point. I think it is time for Fran McCaffery and the Iowa coaching staff to change their mind on the transfer portal. I understand that Fran McCaffery wants to be loyal to the players that he recruited out of high school. I totally understand that, and I respect that, to be honest. I respect him, recruiting a guy and, in a recruiting process and saying, I am going to be loyal to you and staying loyal to them. If you look at a lot of the guys who have been at Iowa, over their time, there's only been one or two transfers that have come in. The only guy that I can think of has been Rebraca. So the guys who are on the roster and have been recruited by Fran McCaffery, everything that he has said to them has been true. He's been honest and transparent, and they haven't had to worry like other players on other teams do about, well, who's going to come in, who might come in and take minutes for me. These Iowa players don't have to worry about that. Who's on the team is who is on the team. But I got to tell you guys, I think it's time to throw that out and put the ixnay on that. We have seen in the NCAA tournament and in the quick emergence of programs that have been in the deep end and about to drown, that you can revitalize your program fairly quickly through the transfer portal. Now, I don't think that Iowa should become as tilted towards that or reliant as other programs are. I think it's important to still recruit high school players and build them up through your program. But I do think, as we have seen with Rebraca, that Iowa can find good team players who are more than capable of playing at the Big Ten level and who can help round out your roster. So I fully expect Iowa to go to the transfer portal unless there's two guys currently on their recruiting big board. One is a 4-star player in Aiden Shaw, who decommitted from Missouri. And the other one is a 6'10" big man named Cameron Fens, who Iowa is giving 6'10", 6'11", who Iowa is giving a heavy look at. If they get either one of those guys, then they probably will not go to the transfer portal. But if they don't go for either guys and lose a scholarship from either one of those guys, then they will absolutely go to the transfer portal. The last thing, as I wrap this video up, it's already gone longer than I wanted it to, is Keegan Murray. I absolutely think it was the right decision for him to go to the NBA. He's talented enough. He did a lot of good things at the University of Iowa. The only other thing for him to, he won a Big Ten tournament championship. He was on 2 very, very good Iowa basketball teams. I don't know if I don't think he's won any National Player of the Year awards, but he was in contention. Some could even argue that he should have won one, if Iowa was slightly better. Not that Iowa was a bad team, but usually that award goes to the best player on a top 10 type team. So he's done everything he can. He's ready for the NBA. His draft stock will never be higher than it is now. In fact, if he came back next year and averaged even more points than he did this year, he would still drop down NBA draft boards because of his age. So he has to go. This is the prime time for him to go to the NBA. This is the highest his draft stock will ever be. And again, if he decided to come back, his draft stock would automatically go down because of his age, regardless of his on-the-court production. That's just how the NBA works. I'm going to read this, and then we will get out of here. And I am very curious what you guys think. So comment in the comment section below what you guys think of Keegan Murray deciding to go to the NBA and Joe Toussaint deciding to transfer. I'm going to read this, and then we will bail out of here. After much consideration and thought, I have decided to put my name in the transfer portal to pursue an expanded role at another institution. I am thankful to my teammates, coaches, and fans for a memorable 3 years. Winning a Big Ten championship and building lifelong relationships during my time in Iowa City is something I will always cherish. Now, again, I'm wrapping this up. I'm not big on transferring. I think there is a lot to be said about graduating, spending all your time at one institution, building relationships, building connections. There is something absolutely to be said about graduating from a school that you have gone to your whole college career after the game is done. There is something to be said about the connections and the benefits of graduating from an institution like Iowa and being there your whole career. When you decide to transfer and leave, unfortunately, that connection is not totally severed, but it is partially severed. It's certainly not the same as if you were to stay there all 5 years. I wish Joe Toussaint the best. I was always one of his biggest defenders. I put my name on the line for him to become a starter. Not that it matters a ton, but I did defend him in being the starting point guard for the Iowa Hawkeyes many times. I enjoyed watching him play, and I really do wish the best for him. Do I think that this is the best decision for him? Not really, but ultimately it's his life. So we'll see what happens, and I will keep you updated on Iowa Hawkeye sports. Let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section, and I will see you guys next time. DBAP, don't be a pussy willow, and facts are feelings because feelings don't matter. Love y'all. Go Hawks. Bye.